So this is my 1990 GSX 750F. This is my personal rebuild. I've rebuilt essentially everything on the bike. It's a Frankenstein of bikes, really. It's got at least 15 other part bikes inside of it, and I spent more money on this thing than it's worth by far. Just by looking at the engine, that's probably 4 engines inside of there just to make it work. So the first video I'm going to be making for this channel is how to route the hoses properly, and I'm going to be showing you guys how to do that in this short video. Alright, well, it's time to get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the seat right there. All you need is to do, pull out your key, put it right in there, and it should pop right out. Now that you've pulled your seat off, it's time to get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to be pulling off the gas tank. And you notice these two right here. You're going to want to take off both of these. They're 10 millimeters, and when you do, be very careful. The parts in here are small enough to fit inside of your airbox air filter. So be very careful when removing them, as I have personally dropped them in the airbox on more than one occasion, and it is a pain to get them out because you have to remove everything, like all the way up to the carburetors. Later, I'm going to be explaining how to properly install the airbox. Essentially, it's a pain. Just say that. Okay, now that you have pulled off these parts right here from over here, we're going to go to the petcock right over here, and we're going to be taking off both of these hoses. And when you're doing it, be careful. Personally, I like to get a little glass cup right here, and essentially as I'm taking off the hoses, let the excess gas just fall into that cup so you don't get it all over the place. Another thing you might want to notice, reserve on prime. Left reserve, down on, right is prime. If you don't want gas to continue coming out of this while you're removing it, put it either on or reserve. Prime essentially just opens it up and lets the gas flow. On and reserve require the engine to be running and a vacuum to open it up, because this is a vacuum operated petcock. Right, once you got your hoses off just like this, we're ready to move on to the next hose. And on a side note, don't over tighten these hoses. These brass things right here are delicate. Just want them on enough to where it does not fall off. You can break them quite easily. So now we're gonna move on to the other side of the bike. Now we're working on your vacuum hose. This right here hooks up to the back of the petcock and goes straight into the side of this carburetor. You can see right where it hooks up. There's a small little thing that holds it right there, and we're gonna pull that off and then just pull this hose straight off. All right, I just pulled off this hose right here, and now you can see how it is able to move freely, and you can see that little thing that holds it in place. Very simple. And now we're just gonna take off the entire tank. How we do that is we're gonna pull it back a little bit so that the part it hooks up in front comes loose, and then just lift it off and set it down somewhere. All right, so now that I have the gas tank off, I just realized I'm missing something that you guys probably do still have on your bike. Since my bike was essentially just ruined, the gas tank was as well, and the thing that measures how much gas is in the tank, I don't have that anymore. I just keep an eye on it. You're gonna also have to remove that. It's not rocket science, it's pretty straightforward, a few wires really, but you're gonna have to remove that as well while you're doing this. So now let's move straight onto the hoses. You can already vaguely see how the hoses are wired up, but you're gonna wanna pay close attention to the fuel line. This one right here comes straight out of the bottom, and I have it so that it goes behind this bar right here so that it's not choked up and it can actually let gas go through it. And you're also gonna wanna notice how whenever this line is hooked up normally, I don't have too much slack in it to where it creates like a kink or a bend where gravity goes against it, because you always want gravity to go straight down and let the fuel go straight into the carbs. If you don't, you're gonna have some problems. Let's move on to the next hose. This hose right here hooks up to the carburetor as well. It is a breather hose. This one goes up to the top of the carburetor while the fuel ones go straight to the bottom, because that's where the carb bowls are and that's where the gas goes. If you have this one right here clogged up, the breather hose, you can lead to carb icing. You do not want that because your bike will not run when it is frozen. You also look over here and you see right where I have the air filter. Air filter actually comes with these little things, and that's exactly where this thing goes. They actually go straight into them. Nice and simple. You want to bring them straight down, and how far you let them go, really up to you. Don't ever let them get caught on anything. Mine are probably a little bit too far, but I don't mind it. Now let's go on to the other side, the air box. It has one hose that hooks up straight right there. I have mine also going probably too far, but I have a cap on mine. The reason you want a cap is because it's an air box. You don't want air to be coming in through right here. The purpose of this is so that if you have any water or anything inside your air box, you pull this off, let it drain out, and it just lets you know that you have a problem. Okay, so your last hose is pretty hard to mess up. This one right here, exactly what you see, not rocket science. Another thing I want to leave you guys with is don't let anything touch the engine. This hose right here is especially prone to touching the engine if you have it too long. If it's too long, just cut it down. Not a big deal. And just keep in mind how it's routed. I have mine routed underneath this, just so that it is able to hold itself in place. Another thing, if you currently don't have your airbox attached and you have just your carburetors out, try to spin these freely on the where they connect. They should be able to move a little bit. There shouldn't be any real resistance. You want to make sure those rubber grommets that are in there good. If they are messed up, you're gonna have fuel problems. So I was just about to put her back together and I realized, hey, there's one more hose. If you look under here, you can actually see it. Ignore this vacuum line. And you can see where it hooks up. That right over there is where you have your gauge. It measures how much gas is left in there. And it hooks up right over there to that little thing. So that's your last hose. And I guess you can also take a quick look at that. That's how I have mine hooked up. Just the vacuum line to the petcock.